I noticed there was a lot of people mistaking yesterday's playoff defense rankings for Week 14's defense rankings. Today, we are doing Week 14 defense rankings, and I'm one of the only fantasy YouTubers who covers defense multiple times a week, so make sure to go down there, drop a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Now, getting into our first tier, we've got the Seahawks defense, yes, at number 1, and they're going to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Obviously, I do not prefer the Houston defense, who's playing the Chiefs this week, over the Seahawks at the Atlanta Falcons. This is the best play of the week, absolutely 100%. And I'll be honest with you, we are at the point with the Seahawks defense to where there's going to have to be a really tough matchup for me to kind of not put them at least number 2. They are at number 1 this week because they are playing a mistake-prone Kirk Cousins with an offensive line that's failing him and an immobile quarterback whose arm is failing him as well. And on top of that, the Seahawks defense is full of playmakers. We don't even need to discuss it. 40 sacks through 12 games, 13 interceptions, 5 forced fumbles, 3 defensive touchdowns. What more do you want from the Seahawks defense? They're easily at number 1. And then number 2 to round out the tier, we've got the Broncos defense having a big rebound game because they're playing the Las Vegas Raiders. This is also one of those offenses that you just want to chase probably the most out of any offense in the entire league. Because you know Geno Smith is good for at least 1 interception, and there's probably going to be another fumble from somebody on top of that. So at the worst case scenario, you're going to get at least like 1 or 2 turnovers with probably at least 3 sacks on Geno Smith. And then best case scenario, they're not going to put more than 14 points on the board for you. The Broncos defense is going to absolutely obliterate Geno Smith because they already did the first time, and I expect more of the same this particular time. I would say the only thing with the Broncos defense that got a little exposed when they played the Washington Commanders is the fact that their defense is built off of sacks, and they didn't get that many. So it kind of got exposed a little bit down the field in that game versus Washington. I don't view the Las Vegas Raiders as a team that could take advantage of that. I expect the Denver Broncos to continue their sack crusade against Geno Smith for a number 2 defensive finish this week. Dropping down to our next tier, we've got the Browns defense at number 3, and they're taking on the Tennessee Titans at home. So when it comes to this matchup, this is one of those offenses you obviously want to target as well. Tennessee, I thought they had actually kind of taken a step forward in that last week versus the Seattle Seahawks before they came back down to earth this week. And their earth is many teams' hell because they are so bad. They cannot move the ball. They've got no playmakers. Cam Ward looks like dump. And the offensive line isn't good enough to handle any pass rush, especially the Browns. Myles Garrett, I would imagine, has at least 3 sacks in this game right here, and the Cleveland defense has 43 sacks in total this year. They've also got 9 interceptions, 10 forced fumbles. Like, this is a really brutal defense to take on, especially if your offensive line is absolute garbage. It's at home as well in their conditions. There's no way the Tennessee Titans put more than 10 to 13 points on the board against the Cleveland Browns. The Commanders defense is at number 4, and they're going to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. The Vikings have fallen so far from grace that they've become an offense I want to aggressively pursue. So there's a couple points to this one. Number 1, I think Kevin O'Connell has a lot of blame. And if you ask Vikings fans, I believe they would say the same thing largely. They have a very vanilla offense in my opinion. Obviously, their quarterback play is what's terrible. And J.J. McCarthy coming back this week makes me want to play this defense even more because there's no way they're going to fail against him. But the other thing is that Washington's defense, since Dan Quinn took over the play calling, been pretty good. I will say that obviously against the Broncos, they gave up a good amount of points, but they did what they could against that offense who's got a lot more talent and a lot better quarterback situation than Minnesota's. So you get J.J. McCarthy throwing at least 2 picks in this game, which is usually what he's good for. Not being able to run the ball because Aaron Jones probably misses again. There's just no way, again, that the Vikings are not a great offense to play against as a fantasy defense. And to round out this tier, I've got the Bucs defense at 5, and they're playing the New Orleans Saints at home. So when it comes to the Bucs, I highlighted this in the playoff rankings video yesterday when I said, listen, the Bucs defense is actually probably better in fantasy than you think. They are currently the number 12 defense in fantasy football right now, because of Todd Bowles' aggressive type of calling plays. He is a coordinator and a defensive head coach that wants to create blitzes, attack you with all kinds of different looks to make you turn the ball over and make mistakes. So while they only have 29 sacks on the year, they've got 11 interceptions. They've got 8 forced fumbles. They've got a safety. They got 2 defensive touchdowns. They can make the plays necessary. And on top of that, the Saints obviously have trouble moving the ball as is with Tyler Shough at quarterback. He is mistake prone. They just don't have enough talent in general to put up more than 17 points on the board in any given week. And that's on their best weeks usually. So with the Bucs defense this week, I imagine they're going to be a really solid play. But I will tell you this, defenses like the Commanders, like the Buccaneers, like possibly the Browns are on waivers right now. And it has never been more important than now to go utilize our automatic waiver tool to get the defense you need, because defenses usually are not priority waiver ads. A lot of times after those priority waiver claims run through, people get up at 3 in the morning to go grab the best remaining free agents for free. Our tool has automated that process for you, so you don't have to wake yourself up and you could sleep through the night and get the players and beat the guys to the wire who are getting up at 3 in the morning. We've automated that for you, and on top of that, you'll also get access to my top 250 rankings on a weekly basis, the comparison feature, and the league sync-up feature as well. And if you refer a friend and they sign up as well, both of you will get free months entirely. And if you just want to do a full team breakdown for me where we'll go over it on a live stream, have live back and forth dialogue, once you email me your team and your payment processes, we will go through your entire team and break it down for you so you're ready to win a championship on a live stream. Dropping down to our next tier, we've got the Rams defense at number 6. They're going to Arizona to play the Cardinals. Now, the funny thing about Arizona's offense is they're just not bad, right? Like, they have Jacoby Brissett at the helm, and they're able to push the ball down the field and move the ball. However, they are a large part garbage time team, and they do make mistakes offensively. So I don't think that the Cardinals should be considered a bad play for a fantasy defense. I do also think when you look at the Rams defense in its entirety this year, the only true blemish they have on their record is that last week against the Carolina Panthers. That was an off week. But outside of that, they've been really good for fantasy. They're the number 3 defense in fantasy football, behind only the Texans and the Seahawks, 2 superior defenses. 33 sacks through 12 games, 12 interceptions, and 10 forced fumbles. That shows me that they're a really good defense, and I can overlook one bad performance because everyone has an off day. So I do think that the Arizona Cardinals are going to get a lot of punishment bestowed upon them because of how angry the Rams are going to be. And you know they're wanting to keep pace in this race for the number 1 seed. The Jags defense is at number 7. They're taking on the Indianapolis Colts at home this week. Honestly, man, the Jags defense has been so long left out of this list, and they've been on these rankings sparingly. It just kind of depends on matchup. But at this point, I'm kind of overlooking matchups in certain cases. Now, I actually don't mind this matchup. I think Daniel Jones is weaker now. He doesn't have the same mobility because he's dealing with a broken fibula. But I will also say this, the Colts are still very efficient offensively. So unless he makes mistakes and makes turnovers happen, it's a little tougher to get positive points on the Colts offense. But you could sack him if Daniel Jones can't move back there, and they may not just be able to put up many points. Either way, this feels like one of those ugly divisional matchups here where both teams are slugging it out for the number 1 seed in the division. And the Jags defense with 13 interceptions and 20 combined turnovers this year is one of those defenses you just can't any longer ignore. So against a weaker Daniel Jones, I will take that opportunity a lot of times this week. The Steelers defense is at number 8, and they're going to make a bigger play this week against the Ravens, and the Ravens defense is also at 9 because this is, again, one of those ugly divisional games. This is for the division right here. One of the games that will decide the division is coming this Sunday against the Steelers and the Ravens. The Steelers defense is falling apart. I will be the first to say this as a Steelers fan, and I'm actually happy to see it happen because I hope Tomlin gets fired finally. But the one thing I said on the playoff ranking defenses is the reason why the Steelers defense is in there, and they're in the top 10 right here, is because they have an appetite for big plays and big turnovers. They're great at scheming up blitzes to sack a quarterback. And usually it doesn't work against Lamar, But I will say this, Lamar at 70%, he has not been nearly as mobile. So I do think he's weak in that position right there. And they also get a lot of interceptions and a lot of forced fumbles. They have an appetite for turnovers, and if they get one, they're usually going to get more than one. So I do think the Steelers are just one of those high upside, lower floor plays, but the floor actually feels relatively stable in this matchup versus Baltimore, where I think a lot of field goals will probably happen more than touchdowns. And that goes with the Ravens defense too. I don't think the Steelers' offense is going to get any better than it is, and they're getting worse by the week. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be playing. He does not care anymore to play for this team because they don't have any talent at the wide receiver position. Their running backs are spotty at best, and I do like some of the talent at the running back position, but their offense and their offensive line is failing Aaron Rodgers. So with the Ravens defense playing a little bit better football mostly over the past 2 months, I kind of look at this one as a really good opportunity for them to hold the Steelers to field goals and probably get a turnover or two from them as well. This game script either way is going to be low scoring. Dropping down to our last tier, we've got the Dolphins defense at number 10, and they're going to New York to play the Jets. Now, the one thing I will say about this one is I have consistently been right about the Dolphins out of their element. If you take them and you put them into cold weather, that's not a good success story for them at this time of the year. And going to New York could be one of those stories right here. So I do worry about the Dolphins and maybe their ability to give up points. Because I've said this over the weeks too. With the Dolphins, they've had opportunistic matchups in the previous weeks. And this is an opportunistic matchup. But if they're not holding opponents to very few points, that won't work out well for them. So I think a lot of people probably expect this defense to be higher in the rankings this week. They're not higher this week because they don't really make a ton of plays necessary for positive fantasy points. 25 sacks through 12 games is okay. 4 interceptions, though, that's pretty minuscule. And 10 fumbles recovered, that's fine. But it doesn't always happen like this. Most of the time, they need a lower scoring game to provide you a really good upside play. And I don't think they're the greatest upside play in New York in inclement weather this week. The Texans defense is at 11, and they're going to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Now, with the Texans defense, they're in that category of the Seahawks and the Broncos in most weeks, where I can't realistically find the strength in me to put them outside the top 12 because I know the ceiling of this defense and how dominant they are. They have too much talent, and the Chiefs' offensive line is too weak for them to not exploit some problems with the Chiefs' offense, which, of course, has been hot and cold this year alone. And it is very dependent on the passing game, too, because I think that the Texans will shut down the run this week. So I would imagine they're probably going to get a turnover or two off of the Chiefs, and if they can keep it lower scoring, which is usually a recipe in a Houston Texans game, I can't see them being outside of a top 12 finish this week. And the last defense on here, the Cowboys defense, going to Detroit on Thursday night to take on the Lions. This is a big tester right here. But the way I look at this one, and why I would rather play them than the Titans who are playing the Browns, the Bears who are playing the Packers, the Eagles who are playing the Chargers, I'd rather take the shot on the Cowboys because what they're doing right now is very, very fitting for a fantasy defensive play. They're getting pressure up the middle with Quinnen Williams and with Kenny Clark now. They have a really good 1-2 combo in the middle of that defense that's really changed their defense and how they can operate. So with the Lions, on the other hand, their interior offensive line is getting weaker by the day. They're losing guys to injuries. They just have not done as well offensively. They're not as explosive. And without Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're taking away a massive piece of that offense. So I don't think of the Cowboys as this really awful play this week. I think they've got a shot to have a decent upside game, and I'd rather take the shot on them than other defenses behind them this week. If you want to see the top 12 defense rankings for the playoffs, click on this video right here.